Let's talk about my top 6 essential tools for the garden if you are a beginner gardener. Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paloma. About a year ago, we were just starting off in our own journey of becoming gardeners, and now we have definitely made progress. If you're thinking of starting a garden or know somebody who is, I want to share with you my top 6 essential tools that are a staple at my garden, and I would definitely rebuy if they no longer worked, had to replace them, or if I was just starting over. And if you haven't met Mochi, this is Mochi, and she's asking you to please go ahead and subscribe. Mochi, please tell them to subscribe. Tell them to subscribe. If you stay till the end of the channel, I will also be adding a couple of other essentials that I think you should have as a beginning gardener. We'll start off with my trusty little shovel. And this shovel is one of the first things that I bought when I started gardening, and it has become so useful. You will have a lot of digging to do, whether it is on a raised bed or you need it as an extra hand. There's so many things that you will use a shovel for that I found, and I would recommend investing in one that has a nice long handle in case other folks start joining you in the garden. Honestly, lifesaver. Lifesaver, lifesaver. If I only had one tool, it would be my shovel. Depending on what your area looks like in your house, right? The next thing that you would need is a rake of some sort. And there's different types of rakes. There's metal ones, there's plastic ones, so feel free to go ahead and take a look at the different types. But if you're starting from scratch, let's say you have no garden beds. When we first started, everything was just weeds, and we were pulling out the weeds. Having a rake was essential to get everything in piles and get things cleaned up so that we could imagine and think about where we wanted to build some raised beds and what the layout was going to be. So, and even now, we always use the rake in the garden to just keep it looking clean. I also use it to pick up all the weeds as another hand when I need the dirt to come through and siffle out and just want to get those other weeds through. My third tool that for me is 100% an essential is this cultivator right here. So you'll go ahead and take a look. This 4-tine cultivator is amazing. You can go ahead and turn your soil, and you can go ahead and just loosen any hard parts. And I just did a bed, and it's good to mix in that new soil that you're putting in, any fertilizer, compost, and any new soils to the top end, and just clean up everything and get it looking good. And most importantly, just loosen things up. I have clay soil, and I really have to loosen things up. During the summer, it gets very dry and clumped up, and in the rainy season, it definitely gets messy, and so this has become an essential for me. And this you could use in a raised bed like the ones that we have back here. You can also use it on the ground. Those were my top 3 bigger tools that I would invest in personally if I had to go through buying tools as a beginning gardener. Now I'm going to go ahead and move into some handheld items that are essential as a gardener. We have these little handheld shovels right here, or what most people know them for in the actual name as a trowel or a Hori. Personally, this one is my favorite. We did get this one at the swap meet for I think $2, and this one I got at TJ Maxx, something like that, for $5 in their random little aisle that you step away. But you can see, you can dig, especially when you're transplanting, and you can also measure this. This is really good, I think, for when you're first starting off and doing your soil test and looking at the different things like that. It is stainless steel, and it also has this little like cut at the end, which if you are digging plants up and transplanting them to different places, which I love to do, just because I like to rethink, and as I'm learning, I'm like, oh, that plant would actually be better over there, or it's not doing so well there, I gotta move it. This helps you kind of serrate through any roots that you can't really get around nicely. Anyways, I would recommend my Hori. My next beginner gardener tool number 5, is your pruning shears. So you can definitely get pruning shears, in various places. All gardening centers have pruning shears, and these, again, are essential as you're going around in the gardening. You're going to be snipping things through, going to be, whether you're doing a cut flower garden, you need to cut those stems out. Whether you have any vegetables that you're growing, those are going to need to be cut. Even if you're doing fruit trees, those fruit trees need to be pruned. Depending on the size of those fruit trees, you might need to upgrade. But these will come in hand for a lot of different things, and there are varying prices that you could get. So I bought these from the Home Depot, and it needs to be cleaned a little bit. And these I bought at the swap meet. So there's different prices that you can get. I would not go in the direction of ones that are not high quality, just because you really want it to be sharp and you want it to be doing its thing. I did originally buy some that weren't a good stainless steel material, and they hurt my plants more than helped the plants. But your pruning shears, again, are essential as your handheld tools that you should have as a beginning gardener. And last but not least, your water soaker. So you need to think about how you're going to water your garden. And you have a lot of different options. You can get a handheld watering can. You can use your hose. Most places have a hose that you can use. For us, we do, and so we use the hose. We invested in the hose nozzle because it lets you shift in different settings so that you can use on the different types of plants that you have and the stages that they're in, since they are a little bit more delicate in the beginning stages. And so this is my last essential tool if you are a beginning gardener. So you made it to the end of the video, and this is my little fun basket of extra stuff that you should have as a beginning gardener. The very first thing that I would recommend as a beginning gardener is to invest in something that you can use to sharpen your tools. So this is actually a knife sharpener. It's meant to be used for in the kitchen to sharpen your knives, but I use it out here in the garden so that I can sharpen my tools. There are also ones that are made specifically for sharpening your garden tools, but again, it's fairly easy. You go ahead and take the point and you just rub it off and it starts coming out. There is a video that I've made where I talked about sharpening the tools. It was within one of my vlogs, so if you'd like to see a step-by-step how to sharpen your tools and how to clean your tools, I can go ahead and do that for you. I would 100% invest in something that's going to last you long term and that you can use to sharpen your garden tools. Also in line with tools, and that is something to disinfect your shears and just keep your garden tools clean. There will be some fungus and other things that are living in your plants, and you don't want it to be spreading out, and you want to avoid that as much as possible. So having a little alcohol thing, you can get them at the 99-cent store, you can get them at Target, Walmart, things like that. I have the 70%, and then a little cloth that you can use. You go ahead and squirt some on your little cloth, and you get your tool of choice and just quickly, sand that in before and after you are done using it in the garden. And that will just make sure that you're doing whatever you can to keep your garden healthy. And if there are any pests or anything that will be hurting your garden, that you're not passing that along via your tools. And the next thing, as a gardener, I personally love to use my hands in the garden and get the earth in between my fingertips and nails. But you will need a good pair of gloves. And oh, as you can see, I grabbed the wrong the wrong glove pairs. But I think the point is still the same. You will need a good pair of gloves to be out in the garden. I especially love roses, and when I am pruning my roses and pulling those out, my gloves are essential for that. Especially if you're just beginning as a gardener and you're having to pull weeds out and clear the area or clean up where you're going to be gardening, putting things together. You're still learning the animals and insects that live in your area. You're still learning about the weeds that are around you. So having some type of protection is going to be key for you. And then eventually, you know, you can start playing in the soil the way that I do, walking barefoot. It's so much fun connecting to earth that way. A good pair of gloves that you can always go back to when you do have those tasks that just require a little bit more protection. A measuring tape of some sorts. This obviously you'll be able to use in other tasks within your house, but I think in the garden, especially if you're gonna go out into the hardware store and pick up certain items, for example, hardwire, or you're trying to build beds, knowing that your standard wheelbarrow has, you know, you probably want to leave 4 feet in between so you can get a wheelbarrow in between, and being able to measure that and see that. I don't know about you, but I cannot tell you what 4 feet is unless I like use my wingspan or I have a measuring tape. And having this is going to be so key, especially when you're not in your personal garden and you have to be outside picking things up to know if it actually will fit into the space that you're working in, for your raised beds, for tools that you're going to eventually need to be investing in, and other things like that. And the last item that I would have in my garden is a 5-gallon bucket. It doesn't have to be fancy. It could be the ones from the Home Depot or Lowe's. It could be a random 5-gallon bucket that you find in the Buy Nothing groups, or from paint if you've remodeled. But just having a bucket really helps you out. You know, there are certain things where you're moving and getting in the groove of gardening, and having somewhere to like drop things in on would be great. It's just kind of like a little mini trash can coming with you to pick up all the weeds or to transport anything that you need, like soil, get rocks out of that area, carry all your plants or tools that you may need, just something to carry it. And I found that 5 gallons is a really good start when you're just beginning. And now that I've been in here a year later, it's still really good. I'm personally not at the level yet of upgrading to a wheelbarrow. There have been some instances where I'm like, oh, I really wish there was a wheelbarrow, but the cost hasn't justified me actually getting that wheelbarrow and then thinking about storing that wheelbarrow. But this 5-gallon bucket, you could do a lot of things with it, and it's become very, very handy in the garden. So I would recommend you get something for yourself as well as a beginning gardener. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you learned a lot of things, and I hope these were useful. If you are trying to start a garden yourself, or if you know anybody that's trying to start a garden, this would be the perfect gift to give them now, as you encourage them to get into their own journey of gardening. And maybe the most essential thing that you need for your garden is your trusty little friend, Mochi. Yes? Do we need a dog in the garden? Maybe. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching, and go ahead and leave a comment down below what your favorite tool is as a gardener. And if you haven't done so, please go ahead and subscribe. I am trying to reach the 1,000 subscribers, and I would greatly appreciate it if you go ahead and support my channel by liking, commenting, or subscribing. Have a good rest of your day.